Writing copy for your website, I know, it's one of the most daunting tasks about creating a website, but arguably it's one of the most important things, or the most important thing that you put on your website. Your copy on your website defines your user experience. It entices people to stay on your website, to click on things, to contact you, to do business with you. So making sure the content and the copy on your website is top notch is super, super important to converting website visitors into customers. Now, I grew up loving story writing from when I was in elementary school. I followed that passion into the news industry, became a news producer where I wrote even more stories, and then I decided to start my own photography business. And I quickly realized that starting a photography business is about way more than pretty pictures. Just like starting any type of small business is about way more than the service you provide or the product that you offer. There's a lot that goes into growing a business, and I quickly learned that writing copy for my website was a whole different beast than just writing a story about myself or a story about somebody else. But then I learned that it actually does come full circle, because writing copy for your website is a lot like telling a story. There's just a little bit more strategy, marketing that goes into it. But in today's modern marketing, it's all about storytelling, right? It's not about selling. It's not about the first thing showing up on your website being that we are the greatest with no proof behind it, no story behind it, just listing a bunch of awards that you won. Like, that does not get you customers these days. So storytelling is actually huge for your website design. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can implement that into your website copy today. I'm going to provide a few extra resources and books for you that I've learned a ton from. So here we go. I'm going to start with one of the worst things that you can do for your website, and it is cause confusion the second that someone gets on your website. So you only have like 10 to 20 seconds to keep somebody's attention when they show up on your website. As a photographer, I talk a ton about photos and video and visuals on your website and making sure that those are professional and enticing and, easy to look at. But if it's not clear to me what you do within the first 10 seconds or so that I'm on your website, I'm gone. I'm not going to try to sit and figure it out. I'm not going to scroll to see it, 5 scrolls down the page. I need to know what you do, what you can do for me right away when I visit your website. And although you can portray that with an image, your website copy is just as important to eliminate any confusion that someone might feel when they come on your webpage. Here are a few guidelines you can follow to write your web copy or to use to check your current web copy to see if it could use any improvement. So first, we want to make sure our website copy is clear and concise. We want to use conversational tone. We don't want to use confusing terms that might make sense to us because we're professionals and we know what we're talking about, but that don't make sense to your customer or to the common the website user who doesn't know all of those terms. So I like to say my website copy out loud first and make sure it comes across in a conversational tone. It's friendly, it reflects me and how I would talk to somebody, and it's also very easy to understand. Now, going off of this, I also want to make sure my navigation on my website is super easy, clear, and concise as well. So this is not the time to get creative and come up with funny or like inside joke navigation titles to try to get people to figure out what category they're looking for or where they need to go on your website. Clear and concise. Here's where you need to go if you're looking for this. Here's where you need to go if you're looking for that. I need direction. I'm not going to sit and figure it out. And if I'm confused, I'm going to leave. So clear and concise navigation. And that kind of goes into a call to action, right? Clear and concise calls to action. Where do you want people to go? If they fall on your homepage and they're looking for a specific service, make it clear their next step, what they need to click on and what they need to do next, and make sure your menu is clear for what your customers are looking for so they can click on something and get what they need immediately. Another step to check is don't overload your website with text. While copy is important, we don't want too much of it, and we don't want too much of it in one space. People aren't going to read. Their attention span is short, right? So we want to break up long text into bullets. Google likes bulleted lists. So if you have a longer piece of text that you can break up into easy to read bullets, that's always a good option. But just make sure that you're spreading out your text and not overloading it with paragraph upon paragraph without an image in between, and Make sure your font is easy to read, colors are easy to read. We want to make the copy easy on the eyes, but also just easy to digest. That doesn't take a long time, doesn't make me feel like I'm reading a book, because that's not what I go to a website for. And then finally, this is really big for me and what I do with my clients, because storytelling is so important to me and my business, and I think it's super important, especially if you have a personal brand as a business. And that is showing why you do what you do, whether it's through a story or something about yourself or a video. But I want to know why you chose to do what you do, or why you currently do what you do. Not necessarily like, oh, 20 years ago I picked up a camera and just love photography. I want to know why you do what you do right now. And a really, really good resource for that is the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Also an audiobook, so you can listen to it in the car, but that is a great resource for defining why you do what you do, but also why people care about it and why you should include it in your marketing and on your website. Customers make decisions based off of emotions and connection and trust. If they know why you do what you do, they're way more likely to use your product or your service. They don't really care about it until they know you, or until they know why your business exists. All right, now you've gone through and checked over your website copy, and you kind of have a plan for what you need to improve, or if you're just starting, what things you need to be on the lookout for when you're creating your content. Now I'm going to talk about one thing that you can do to improve your website content right now. So if you're just starting to write, or if you've already got it but you're making some tweaks, here's one thing you can do to improve the copy on your entire website almost immediately. It takes a little bit of prep work, but if you love what you do, which I'm assuming you do as a small business owner, this should come pretty easily for you. Now, when I work with my clients, I work on building that know, like, and trust factor. And that is easily built with your clients by telling stories. So again, you'll hear this from me a million times. Stories, 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 right? Stories about you, why you do what you do, why you love it, how behind the scenes stories of building your business and stuff like that, but also the stories of your clients. Now, those come in the form of testimonials and reviews and stuff like that, but they don't have to. You don't have to tell a story of a client and give out their personal information, but you can tell the story of a client and how they transformed from beginning to end working with you. It could be a fictional client too. If you're just starting, you might not have that transformation story yet, but here's what the client would experience working with you. Another great resource in this, where this is coming from, is Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. So highly recommend that book. They have a bunch of resources online that you can use to build out your own story brand, and then it walks you through how to put that into your website. So I'm just kind of briefing over that right now, but check out Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. mystorybrand.com, I believe, is the website. I'll put the links below this video. But check out that resource for more on what I'm talking about here. So that story brand framework really walks you through how to tell your client's story. So every client starts with a problem, and they need that problem addressed, and you address it through the process of working with you, and then your actual product and service. They go through a transformation, and then they end up the hero of the story, right? So they go from having all of these problems and these kind of enemies that they're facing, and then you help them overcome that and show what they feel and what they accomplished and achieved with working with you. So use that framework in your website and walk your clients through that story. Use testimonials and all that from real clients, but you can walk them through that story on your homepage without having to include paragraph upon paragraph of text. But it's a great framework for you to use from top to bottom on your website. And then one other story I really want you to incorporate is, again, stories about yourself. So think about the why behind your business, a story that you can tell that's compelling, that's emotional, that really allows your customer to know you, to trust you, establish that know, like, and trust factor, right? And use those stories on your about page. You can use a little bit of it on your homepage and then try to get them to click to go to the about page and learn a little bit more. But those are the two types of stories that you really want to make evident on your website. And a few ways that you can easily implement this StoryBrand framework into your website are one, it could be making a list of the problems that your customer faces before they work with you, and then the results that they achieve after they work with you, kind of side by side, allows them to see and relate to the problems that they might be having, and then, oh wow, I can achieve these things after I work with this person. Another way to do this is break down the process of what it looks like working with you. So your clients want to know when they email you what happens next. What are my steps to get these results that I desire? So you can have a little section on your website that walks them through the process so they know exactly what they're getting themselves into and they can start to picture that happening in their own life. Another way to do this is to design a list of kind of promises that you have when you work with a client. So these are the things that I promise to do when I'm working with you, again, establishing that trust factor. So overall, again, I know copy on your website can be daunting and we don't all love to write when we're small business owners, but if you break it up into stories that you could easily tell somebody just meeting them on the street, or you're talking to a friend and you're telling them the story about your business, use those on your website, and I think that makes writing copy for your website a lot easier. Take your mind from you're writing sales and you're trying to get people to buy things. Take your mind off of that and think about the stories behind your business, your stories, your client stories, and how you can clearly, simply show that in your website copy, and you're off to a great start. Now, if you have questions about website copy or need help with your own website copy, shoot me an email. I offer a web design service where I include all of the copy because I know that not all web designers like to write. And since it's so important, I include that with my web design. But I'm also happy to help you with the copy on your website that already exists too. So shoot me a message, let me know in the comments if you have any questions.